In the endless black velvet of space, where stars whispered secrets to the void and nebulae danced like forgotten dreams, Captain Jax Harlan piloted his battered old freighter, the asterisk stellar Nomad Asterisk, through the treacherous fringes of the Elara Nebula. Jax was no stranger to the wild edges of the galaxy. He'd scraped by as an explorer for years, chasing rumors of lost artifacts and dodging the occasional pirate who thought his ship looked like easy pickings. At 35, with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and eyes that held the quiet storm of a man who'd seen too many sunrises on too many worlds, Jax embodied that raw, unyielding human spirit, the kind that made aliens whisper about those unpredictable Terrans with a mix of awe and fear. But tonight, the nebula wasn't just a pretty light show. It was a graveyard of swirling gas clouds that played havoc with sensors, turning every shadow into a potential ambush. Jax gripped the controls, his calloused hands steady as he nursed the asterisk Nomad Asterisk S engines through a particularly dense pocket of ionized particles. "Come on, girl," he muttered to the ship, his voice a low rumble in the cockpit's dim glow. "Don't fail me now. We've got bigger fish to fry than some cosmic dust bunnies." That's when the alarms screamed to life. Red lights flashed across the console like arterial blood, and the proximity alert blared. "Incoming vessels, hostile signatures detected." Jax's heart kicked up a notch, but he didn't panic. Panic was for rookies. He slammed the throttle forward, weaving the asterisk Nomad Asterisk through a narrow gap in the clouds, but it was too late. 3 sleek pirate corvettes materialized from the haze, their hulls scarred and gleaming with illegal modifications, vessels from the notorious Void Reavers, scum who'd plunder anything that moved. "Captain Harlan," crackled a voice over the comms, laced with the guttural accent of a Dravex mercenary. "Surrender your cargo, or we'll vent your atmosphere and pick your bones clean. The nebula's no place for a lone human fool." Jax smirked, flipping a switch to jam their targeting locks with a burst of electronic chaff. "Fool, that's rich coming from a bunch of tin cans who can't even fly straight." He banked hard, the asterisk Nomad Asterisk groaning under the strain, lasers from the lead corvette grazing his shields and sending sparks flying across the dashboard. The chase was on, a deadly ballet through the nebula's glowing tendrils, where one wrong turn meant becoming cosmic confetti. As the pirates closed in, their fire intensifying, Jax's mind raced. He wasn't loaded with valuables this run, just some salvaged tech from a derelict station, but he wasn't about to let these bastards board. He fired back with the asterisk Nomad Asterisk S twin turrets, clipping one corvette's wing and sending it spiraling into a gas cloud. One down. He growled, but the other 2 were relentless, their beams carving deadly paths through the void. In the midst of the chaos, something impossible happened. A 4th ship emerged from the nebula's heart, not a pirate, but a shimmering vessel of ethereal silver, its form twisting like liquid starlight. It was Elarian design, unmistakable, the royal sigil of the nebula kingdom of Elara etched into its prow. Before Jax could react, the ship broadcast a desperate hail, overriding his comms with a voice that was music and desperation intertwined. "Please, human, you must help me." The words carried an otherworldly lilt, feminine and urgent, laced with a fear that pierced straight to Jax's soul. On his view screen flickered the image of a woman, no, an alien beauty who made his breath catch. She had hair like spun moonlight, cascading in waves down her shoulders, framing a face of porcelain skin that glowed faintly with an inner luminescence. Her eyes were vast pools of violet, wide with terror, and small, pointed ears peeked from beneath her tresses like delicate secrets. She wore a gown of iridescent silk that clung to her curves in a way that was both regal and provocatively revealing, the fabric shifting colors with her emotions, now a stormy indigo of panic. "I am Elara, daughter of Queen Thalira of Elara," she continued, her voice trembling yet resolute. "Pirates, they've taken my mother's ship. The Overlord Varak holds her captive in his fortress on the shadow moon of Nyxara. If you save her, I swear by the stars, my sisters and I will serve you forever, as your cosmic handmaidens, bound in eternal loyalty." Jax blinked, dodging another laser volley that rocked the asterisk Nomad Asterisk. Serve him? Handmaidens. This had to be some nebula-induced hallucination. But there was no time for doubt. The pirates were zeroing in, and Elara's ship was taking hits, its shields flickering like a dying candle. "Lady, as much as that sounds like a fairy tale from back home, I've got my own problems here," he replied, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins, but Elara's plea cut deeper. "You are human, you're kind. Legends speak of your ingenuity, your fire that defies the void. Please, Jax Harlan, I know your name from the star logs. You're our only hope. The Overlord will drain my mother's essence, twist her power for his war machine. Save her and we are yours, body, soul, and starlight. The words hung in the air as another explosion lit the nebula. Jax's shields were at 20%, and the pirates were laughing now, their taunts echoing. Something in Elara's violet eyes, that raw vulnerability mixed with fierce determination, stirred the hero in him, the part of every human that said, "Screw the odds, let's make history." With a curse under his breath, he punched in coordinates for X-Aurel, the shadow moon lurking just beyond the nebula's edge. "All right, princess, you want a knight in rusty armor? Buckle up, but if this goes south, it's on you." Elara's ship fell in beside his, a fragile alliance forming in the firestorm. Together, they plunged deeper into the nebula, the pirates hot on their tail. Jax's mind whirled with questions. Who was this Overlord Varak? What kind of service did she mean? But survival came first. He rigged the *Nomad *S auxiliary power to boost their evasion, deploying decoy flares that mimicked their signatures. One pirate bought it, slamming into a rocky outcrop hidden in the clouds, erupting in a silent fireball. "Nice move, human," Elara breathed over the comms, her voice laced with admiration. "Your ship's primitive yet clever." "Primitive? Honey, this baby's got more tricks than a magician's hat." Jax shot back, a grin splitting his face despite the danger. As they broke free of the nebula, X-Aurel loomed ahead, a jagged orb of obsidian rock, orbiting a gas giant that swallowed light like a black hole's cousin. Varak's fortress crowned its equator, a monolithic spire of dark alloy, bristling with turrets and energy fields that hummed with malevolent power. The remaining pirate corvette peeled off, perhaps calling for reinforcements. But Jax didn't wait. He dove toward the moon, Elara's vessel trailing like a loyal shadow. "What's the play here?" he asked, scanning the fortress's defenses, layered shields, automated drones swarming like angry hornets, and ground-based cannons that could vaporize a fleet. Elara's hologram flickered, her gown shimmering to a hopeful azure. "The Overlord's throne chamber is at the spire's apex. My mother is there, weakened but alive. But the defenses, they're impenetrable to Illyrian tech. Your human mind, it's said to see paths where others see walls." Jax chuckled, a sound born of nerves and bravado. He remembered a salvage job years ago, jury-rigging a tractor beam from scrap to haul in a derelict. "Impenetrable, huh? Watch this." In the *Nomad *S cramped engineering bay accessed via a quick autopilot link, he patched together the tractor beam with spare parts, a fusion coil from the engines, a modulator from the comms array, and a dash of pure Terran stubbornness. The result was a makeshift disruptor beam, tuned to the frequency of Illyrian shields but amplified with human overkill. As they approached, drones buzzed out to intercept, their plasma bolts sizzling against the *Nomad *S hull. Jax unleashed the beam, a wide, pulsating arc of gravitational force that yanked the drones into a chaotic whirl, smashing them together like pins in a cosmic bowling alley. Elara gasped in delight. By the nebula's breath. "It's working," but the fortress's main shield loomed, a shimmering dome of violet energy. Jax aimed the *Nomad straight at it, the ship shuddering as he poured everything into the disruptor. Alarms wailed, hull integrity failing, power reserves critical, but the shield rippled, then cracked like glass under pressure. They punched through, skidding across the moon's surface in a plume of regolith, coming to a halt mere meters from the spire's base. Jax leaped from the hatch, phaser in hand, his spacesuit sealed against the vacuum. Elara emerged from her ship, graceful even in zero-G, her gown adapting to a form-fitting armor weave. "This way," she urged, pointing to a side entrance, but as they breached the outer doors, guards swarmed, hulking Dravex brutes with cybernetic enhancements, their eyes glowing red with implanted rage. The fight was immediate and brutal. Jax fired his phaser in controlled bursts, dropping 2 guards with precision shots to their joints, human training from old Earth militias kicking in. Elara wielded a slender energy blade, her movements a deadly dance, slicing through armor with ethereal precision. But there were too many. A brute's fist connected with Jax's side, sending him sprawling against a console, pain exploding like stars in his vision. "Jax!" Elara cried, her voice a mix of fear and fury. She dispatched the attacker, but more poured in. In that moment, Jax spotted a control panel, alien script, but patterns he could guess. With a grunt, he overrode it, venting plasma from the walls that incinerated half the squad in a flash of blue fire. They pressed on, deeper into the fortress's labyrinthine halls, the air thick with the scent of ozone and desperation. Echoes of Elara's pleas replayed in Jax's mind, her promise of service, those violet eyes promising more than just gratitude. What had he gotten himself into? But there was no turning back. The throne chamber awaited, and with it, a queen's fate, and perhaps the key to a destiny among the stars. As they rounded a corner, the hum of the Overlord's power grew louder, a malevolent heartbeat in the stone. Jax glanced at Elara, her white hair disheveled but her resolve unbroken. "For your mother," he said simply. "For everything," she whispered back, and together, they charged into the unknown. The corridors twisted like the innards of some ancient beast, lit by pulsing veins of crimson energy that throbbed with the fortress's dark heart. Jax's boots echoed softly against the polished obsidian floors, each step a reminder of how far he was from the familiar hum of Earth's colonies. Elara moved beside him like a shadow made of light, her presence both a comfort and a distraction, those pointed ears twitching at every distant clang, her gown whispering against her skin in ways that made Jax's thoughts wander despite the peril. They dispatched another patrol moments ago, a mix of automated sentries and low-rank thralls, but the real test lay ahead. Jax could feel it in the air, a thickening tension like the calm before a supernova. "How much farther?" he asked, keeping his voice low as they ducked into an alcove to avoid a scanning drone's sweep. Elara pressed close, her body heat radiating through the thin fabric of her attire, a subtle floral scent cutting through the metallic tang of the fortress. "The apex is just beyond the grand atrium, but Varak's elite guard will be there, warriors enhanced with neural implants, faster than thought, stronger than steel." Jax nodded, checking his facer's charge. It was down to half, and his jury-rigged disruptor was integrated into the asterisk Nomad asterisk, left docked outside. Elite or not, they're about to meet some good old-fashioned human improv. He flashed her a wink, the kind that had disarmed more than one bar fight back on Mars' outpost. Elara's lips curved in a tentative smile, her violet eyes sparkling with something akin to intrigue. "You're kind, always full of surprises." They emerged into the atrium, a vast cavernous space open to the starry void above, domed by transparent alloy that revealed Nyxara's stormy skies. In the center stood the throne, a jagged monolith of black crystal, pulsing with stolen Illyrian essence. And there, chained to its base, was Queen Thalira. She was a vision of faded glory, hair like Elara's but streaked with silver. Skin pale as moonlight, her form still regal despite the draining tendrils siphoning her life force into the crystal, her eyes, a deeper amethyst, met Elara's with a mix of sorrow and strength. "Mother!" Elara's cry echoed, raw and heartbreaking. She surged forward, but Jax grabbed her arm, pulling her back as shadows stirred. From the throne's flanks emerged Varak, the Overlord himself. He was a nightmare forged in the galaxy's underbelly, tall and gaunt, his skin a mottled gray etched with glowing runes, eyes like bottomless pits of void. Cybernetic limbs whirred as he flexed, a crown of thorny metal atop his head. "Ah, the prodigal daughter returns," he sneered, his voice a digital rasp amplified by implants. "And with a pet human, no less, how quaint. Did you think your fairy tales of Terran heroes would save you?" Jax stepped forward, facer raised, his stance wide and unyielding. "Fairy tales? Buddy, I'm the guy who turns them into reality. Let the queen go, and maybe I'll let you limp away with your dignity." Varak laughed, a sound like grinding gears. "Dignity? For primitive ape. Your species is but a footnote in the stars." He gestured, and his elite guard materialized, 6 figures in sleek armor, their movements blurring with augmented speed. They charged, blades humming with plasma edges. The battle erupted in a frenzy of light and fury. Jax fired first, his shot grazing the lead guard's helmet and staggering it. Elara unleashed her energy blade, parrying a strike that would have cleaved Jax in two. "Stay behind me," she shouted, but Jax was already in the thick of it, dodging a sweeping blow and countering with a brutal elbow to the guard's visor, cracking it with human bone against alien tech. One guard lunged at Elara, its blade slicing her gown and drawing a thin line of luminescent blood across her arm. She gasped, but retaliated with a flourish, severing the arm in a spray of sparks. Jax, seeing her falter, roared and tackled another assailant, wrestling it to the ground in a grapple that pitted raw muscle against servos. He jammed his facer into its neck joint and fired point-blank, the guard convulsing before going limp. Varak watched from his throne, tendrils still feeding on Thalira's essence, her face contorted in silent agony. "Impressive," he admitted, "but futile." He raised a hand, and the crystal throne pulsed, summoning holographic duplicates, illusory warriors that flickered into existence, multiplying the odds. Jax's world narrowed to survival. He and Elara fought back to back, a symphony of grunts, clashes, and the sizzle of energy. He disarmed one duplicate with an improvised kick to its projector node, human intuition spotting the flaw in the illusion tech. Elara, inspired, mirrored him, her blade weaving patterns that disrupted the hologram's coherence. But Varak was no fool. He directed a real guard to flank them, its blade piercing Jax's shoulder guard, searing flesh. Pain lanced through him, hot and blinding, but Jax twisted, using the momentum to hurl the guard into the throne's base. The impact jarred the chains, and Thalira's eyes fluttered, a spark of hope igniting. Jax, the disruptor, Elara yelled, realizing the crystal's vulnerability. But it was outside, and time was slipping away. With a surge of adrenaline, Jax charged Varak directly, facer blazing. The Overlord met him with a claw-like hand, enhanced strength clashing against human grit. They grappled atop the dais, Jax's vision blurring from blood loss, but his mind sharp, spotting a loose rune on Varak's armor. With a desperate yank, he tore it free, the Overlord systems glitching. Varak howled, staggering back, and in that instant, Elara reached her mother, slicing the tendrils with her blade. Thalira slumped free, weak but breathing, her hand clasping Elara's. The remaining guards faltered as Varak's command net failed, and Jax finished them with precise shots. The atrium fell silent, save for the queen's ragged breaths. Varak, recovering, snarled from the shadows. "This isn't over, Terran, the nebula will claim you all." But Jax, panting, helped Elara support her mother. "Not today, it won't." As they retreated toward the exit, alarms wailing, Elara turned to him, her eyes shining with tears and something deeper, gratitude laced with desire. "You did it, my hero." Outside, under Nyxara's alien sky, they boarded the Nomad Asterisk. Thalira stabilized in the med bay. Elara lingered in the cockpit, her presence electric. "My promise stands, Jax. My sisters, Lyra, Zara, and Nara, they will join me. We are yours now, cosmic servants bound by honor and more." Jax met her gaze, the weight of her words settling like stardust. What had begun as a desperate plea in the void was unfolding into something vast, intimate, and utterly unforeseen. As the Nomad Asterisk lifted off, leaving the fortress in flames, the stars ahead promised adventures and passions that no human could have dreamed. The stellar Nomad Asterisk hurtled away from Nyxara's jagged silhouette, its engines humming a defiant song against the pursuing shadows of the nebula. Jax eased back on the throttle, watching through the viewport as Varak's fortress shrank to a pinpoint of flickering orange, consumed by the overload he'd triggered in its core systems. Adrenaline still coursed through his veins like liquid fire, sharpening every sense, but beneath it simmered a deeper heat, one sparked by Elara's proximity. Her body mere inches from his in the cramped cockpit. The air between them felt charged, thicker than the ionized gases they'd just escaped, humming with unspoken possibilities. Queen Thalira lay stabilized in the med bay, her vital signs beeping steadily on the monitor Jax had jury-rigged from salvaged parts. The Illyrian essence drain had left her frail, but her royal blood was already knitting her back together. A faint glow emanating from her skin, like dawn breaking on a distant world. Elara had insisted on tending to her personally, but now, with the immediate crisis averted, she lingered here, her violet eyes fixed on Jax with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "You were magnificent," she murmured, her voice a silken thread weaving through the cockpit's hum. Her hand brushed his arm as she leaned closer to the console, ostensibly to check the nav charts, but the touch lingered, warm and deliberate, sending a shiver up his spine. Jax swallowed, forcing his focus to the stars streaking past. "Just doing what any decent pilot would. Your tech's impressive, but sometimes you need a little Earth-style chaos to shake things up." He glanced at her, taking in the way her gown had torn during the fight, revealing glimpses of porcelain skin that seemed to shimmer under the cockpit lights. Those small, pointed ears, so elegantly elfin, twitched slightly as if attuned to his heartbeat. She was no fragile princess. The battle had revealed her as a warrior, her curves honed by grace and strength, her white hair tousled in a way that begged to be touched. Elara's lips parted, a soft exhale escaping as she shifted, her thigh pressing lightly against his in the confined space. "Chaos? Yes, that's what humans bring, a storm that upends the ordered stars." Her gaze dropped to his lips, then lower, tracing the line of his jaw, the sweat-dampened collar of his flight suit. The air grew heavier, laced with her subtle scent, something like jasmine blooms under a double moon, intoxicating and alien. My promise, Jax, it's not mere words. When we reach Illyria's hidden outpost, my sisters will come. Lyra, Zara, Nara, they are bound to me by blood and nebula oath. We will serve you, as handmaidens of the cosmos, attending to your every need. The word need hung between them, laced with implication. Jax felt a pull, magnetic and undeniable, as if the gravity of her world was drawing him in. He turned toward her, their faces inches apart, the console's glow casting shadows that accentuated the swell of her breasts beneath the iridescent fabric. "Serve me how, exactly?" he asked, his voice rougher than intended, a husky edge born of the day's toll and this newfound tension. His hand, almost of its own accord, rose to tuck a stray lock of her moonlit hair behind her ear, his fingers grazing the soft point there. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into the touch, her breath quickening. "As you desire," she whispered, her eyes darkening to a stormy purple. "In battle, as shields, in council, as whispers of the stars, and in intimacy, as flames to warm your nights among the void." Her hand covered his, guiding it down to rest against the curve of her neck, where her pulse fluttered like a captured star. The contact was electric, her skin impossibly smooth, warmer than human flesh, as if she held the sun's secret fire within. Jax's mind raced, images flashing of her body arching under his, those violet eyes locked on his in ecstasy, but he reined it in. Even as desire coiled low in his gut, before he could respond, the proximity alarm chirped softly, a warning rather than a scream. On the rear sensors, faint signatures bloomed, Varak's reinforcements, corvettes slipping from the nebula like vengeful specters. "Damn it," Jax muttered, pulling his hand away reluctantly, the spell fracturing but not broken. He punched in evasive maneuvers, the *nomad* banking sharply as the first distant laser skimmed their shields. "Looks like your ex-host's not done with us yet." Elara straightened, her warrior instincts snapping into place, but the flush on her cheeks remained, a rosy tint against her pale skin. "He won't stop. Varak craves the Illyrian essence. My mother's power could fuel his conquests across a dozen sectors. We must reach the outpost before he closes the net." She moved to the auxiliary console, her fingers dancing over the controls with fluid precision, syncing her ship systems to boost the *nomad* S-cloak, a nebula-weaving field that bent light around them like a lover's embrace. As they dove into an asteroid field skirting the nebula's edge, the pursuit intensified. The corvettes fired probing shots, forcing Jax to weave through tumbling rocks the size of skyscrapers, each near miss rattling the hull and spiking their adrenaline. Elara's presence beside him was a distraction and a thrill. Every sharp turn pressed her closer, her body brushing his in ways that ignited sparks. "Left, hard left," she called, her voice breathless, as a boulder loomed. Jax complied, their shoulders colliding, and in that instant, her hand gripped his thigh for balance, fingers digging in with a possessiveness that made his blood roar. The lead corvette grazed an asteroid, exploding in a silent bloom of debris, but the others adapted, their AI pilots predicting Jax's human improvisations. One locked on, its beam slicing through the cloak and scorching the *nomad* S flank. Alarms wailed, and Jax smelled the acrid tang of melting circuits. "Shields at 30%, he growled, slamming the disruptor beam online, the same jury-rigged wonder that had cracked the fortress. It lanced out, yanking the closest corvette into a spinning rock, crumpling it like foil. Elara watched him work, her admiration turning to something hungrier. "Your ingenuity? It's intoxicating. On Illyria, such fire is revered, sought after in the most private rituals." Her words were a caress, even as she fired a counter-volley from her linked weapons, vaporizing a drone swarm. The battle was a dance of destruction, suspense hanging on every dodge, every shot. But woven through it was this undercurrent of erotic tension, the way her chest rose and fell with each breath, the subtle arch of her back as she leaned into the controls, her gown slipping further to reveal the elegant line of her collarbone, dotted with faint, glowing freckles like distant constellations, hours blurred into a tense eternity, the asteroid field giving way to open space laced with nebula wisps. The remaining corvettes fell back, perhaps regrouping, leaving Jax and Elara in a fragile pocket of calm. Sweat beaded on his brow, and he wiped it away, only to find Alara's gaze on him, intense and unwavering. "We're clear, for now," he said, slumping back in his chair, the cockpit's dim lights casting her in a halo of soft glow. She rose slowly, deliberately, crossing the space to stand before him, her hips swaying with an alien grace that was both regal and seductive. "For now," she echoed, her voice a low purr. One hand trailed along the console, then to his shoulder, kneading the tension from muscles still taut from battle. "You've earned respite, my savior. Let me ease you." Her fingers slipped under his collar, tracing the edge of his skin, sending jolts of pleasure through him. Jax's breath hitched. He should protest. Focus on the queen, on the sisters she promised, but the pull was too strong, her touch awakening a hunger he'd buried in the loneliness of space. "Elara," he started, but she silenced him with a finger to his lips, her own curving into a smile that promised forbidden delights. She straddled his lap in the pilot's chair, the motion fluid and bold, her weight a welcome pressure against him, her gown parted like mist, revealing the full allure of her form, curves that begged exploration, skin that gleamed like polished pearl. Those small ears framed her face as she leaned in, her lips brushing his ear. "Feel the stars through me, Jax. Let the nebula witness our bond." Their kiss was inevitable, a collision of worlds, her lips soft yet insistent, tasting of sweet nectar and cosmic spice. Jax's hands roamed, cupping her waist, pulling her closer as tongues danced in a rhythm older than the galaxy. She moaned softly into his mouth, a sound that vibrated through him, her body grinding against his in a slow, teasing friction that built suspense like a gathering storm. His fingers tangled in her white hair, tugging gently to expose her neck, where he pressed hot kisses, eliciting gasps that echoed in the cockpit. But even in this haze of passion, danger lurked. The sensors pinged a faint warp signature, Varak's flagship emerging from hyperspace jump, closing the distance with predatory intent. Elara broke the kiss, her eyes wild with desire and alarm. "He's here," she breathed, her chest heaving, nipples straining against the thin fabric. Yet she didn't pull away entirely, her hand sliding down his chest, lingering teasingly. "We can't, not yet. But soon, Jax, my sisters will join us and together, we'll make the void tremble." Jax groaned, adjusting himself as he gripped the controls once more, the nomad leaping into evasive hyperspace. The jump tore at the ship, stars blurring into streaks, but his mind lingered on her taste, her touch, the erotic promise of what was to come, suspended in the suspense of pursuit. As they emerged near Illyria's hidden outpost, a cloaked station orbiting a gas giant's rings, Elara's comms lit up with incoming signals. "Sisters," she said, her voice laced with relief and anticipation. "They're waiting." Docking clamps engaged with a thud, and they hurried to the airlock, Elara's hand in his, a link that pulsed with unresolved heat. The outpost's bays opened to reveal 3 figures, Illyrian beauties mirroring Elara's ethereal allure. Lyra, with hair cascading like a waterfall of frost, her gown a deep crimson that hugged her voluptuous form. Zara, lithe and fierce, her white locks braided with nebula crystals, ears pierced with glowing studs. Nara, the most playful, her skin flushed with excitement, curves accentuated by a sheer azure drape that left little to the imagination. "Sister," Lyra exclaimed, rushing forward to embrace Elara, then turning to Jax with eyes of emerald fire. "The human who defied Varak, we felt your victory through the star weave." Zara and Nara flanked him, their touches light but electric, Zara's hand on his arm, Nara's brushing his back as if already fulfilling the oath. Elara smiled, pulling Jax close. "He saved Mother. Now we serve him, all of us." The air thickened again, suspense coiling as the sisters' gazes roamed him appreciatively, their alien allure a symphony of temptation. But alarms blared from the outpost, Varak's forces breaching the outer perimeter, warp signatures multiplying like shadows at dusk. "To arms," Elara commanded, her voice steady, but her eyes promised that this interruption was merely a pause in their unfolding saga. Jax nodded, facer in hand, the erotic tension fueling his resolve as they prepared to defend their fragile sanctuary. The battle for Illyria, and for the passions it ignited, had only just begun. Jax's grip tightened on the facer as the outpost's alarms shifted from a distant wail to a piercing crescendo. Red emergency lights bathing the docking bay in a hellish glow. The airlock seals hissed open wider, admitting a rush of recycled atmosphere that carried the faint, acrid scent of impending plasma fire. Elara's command hung in the charged silence like a battle cry, her violet eyes flashing with the unyielding fire of her royal lineage, while her sisters, Lyra, Zara, and Nara, fanned out with predatory grace, their gowns morphing seamlessly into armored weaves that hugged their sensual forms like second skins. Jax couldn't help but steal a glance at them in that split second. Lyra's emerald gaze locked on him with fierce protectiveness. Zara's braided white hair whipping as she activated her energy blade, and Nara's playful smile twisting into a snarl of defiance. These weren't just allies. They were a force of nature, bound to him in ways that sent a thrill racing through his core, even as Varak's invasion loomed like a storm about to break. Perimeter breach confirmed, 3 corvettes and a boarding shuttle inbound, Zara reported, her voice a sharp whip crack over the comms link they'd hastily synced to the Nomad asterisk. She moved like liquid shadow, positioning herself at a tactical console, her fingers flying across holographic displays that projected the outpost's defenses, automated turrets, shield emitters, and a network of nebula mines drifting in the orbital rings. They're targeting the power core. If it goes down, we're sitting ducks. Jax's mind snapped into overdrive, the human edge that had saved him countless times kicking in amid the chaos. Not on my watch. Elara, get your mother to the inner sanctum, keep her safe. Lyra, Nara, cover the flanks. Zara, you're with me on the main guns. He didn't wait for nods. There was no time. The outpost shuddered as the first corvette's barrage hammered the outer shields, the entire structure groaning like a wounded beast. Sparks erupted from overhead conduits, and the gravity plating flickered, sending a momentary wave of weightlessness that had everyone floating for a heartbeat, bodies brushing in the zero-G drift. Elara's hand grazing his chest as she propelled toward the med bay corridor. The thrill of it all coursed through Jax like adrenaline-fueled lightning. This wasn't just survival. It was a symphony of defiance, a human at the center of an alien maelstrom, with 4 ethereal beauties orbiting him like moons drawn to a rogue planet. As he dashed to the command deck, facer holstered but ready, he felt their eyes on him, curious, admiring, laced with that simmering erotic undercurrent from moments before. What secrets did these sisters hold? What powers lay dormant in their bond to him? Questions swirled in his mind, fueling the fire, but action demanded focus. The command deck was a hive of frantic activity, holographic star maps pulsing with incoming threats. Varak's flagship, a behemoth of jagged spires and throbbing void energy cannons, hung in the viewport like a harbinger of doom, its smaller vessels darting like hornets from a disturbed nest. Shields holding at 60%, Zara announced, sliding into the gunner's seat beside Jax, her lithe body pressing close in the confined space. Her scent, spicy nebula blooms, mingled with the ozone of overheating circuits, creating an intoxicating haze. But they're modulating frequencies. Our emitters won't last. Jax strapped in, his hands dancing over the controls with the intuitive flair of a man born to the stars. Then we make him dance to our tune. He overrode the standard protocols, patching in the Nomad S disruptor beam through the outpost's auxiliary ports, a risky hack that could fry the whole system if it backfired. But failure wasn't an option. With a surge of power, he unleashed the beam, not as a wide arc this time, but a pinpoint lance that pierced the lead corvette's shield harmonics. The enemy vessel buckled, its hull warping under gravitational shear, exploding in a spectacular cascade of debris that lit the rings like fireworks gone wrong. Zara let out a triumphant whoop, her hand clapping his shoulder with a grip that lingered, nails tracing a teasing line down his arm. By the voids, Jax, your mind. It's a weapon sharper than any blade. Her emerald eyes met his, sparkling with surprise and something deeper, a curiosity about this Terran who turned desperation into dominance. But there was no time for banter. The flagship responded, its main cannon charging with an ominous whine that vibrated through the deck plates. Down in the lower bays, the boarding shuttle slammed into the hull with a thunderous clang, breaching pods deploying like venomous barbs. Elara, having secured her mother in the reinforced sanctum, rejoined the fray with Lyra and Nara, their energy blades humming to life. The corridors became a battlefield, Dravex shock troops pouring in, hulking figures with cybernetic exoskelebs, their red-glowing visors scanning for targets. The air filled with the crackle of plasma and the metallic tang of scorched alloy. Elara led the charge, her movements a blur of elegance and fury, her blade carving through the first wave like a scythe through mist. For Illyria, she cried, her voice echoing with dramatic resonance, each strike a testament to the kingdom's lost glory. But the troops were relentless, their numbers swelling as more pods latched on. One brute lunged at her, its power fist swinging in an arc that could crumple starship plating. She dodged, but it clipped her side, sending her sprawling against a bulkhead, pain flaring across her ribs. Lyra was there in an instant, her crimson-armored form intercepting the attacker with a telekinetic pulse, a hidden Illyrian gift. Waves of force rippling from her outstretched hands, slamming the brute into the wall with bone-crushing impact. "Sister," she gasped, helping Elara up, their bodies pressing together in the heat of battle, white hair mingling like threads of fate. Nara, ever the wild card, flanked from the shadows, her azure drape fluttering as she unleashed a swarm of illusionary duplicates, ghostly images of herself that confused the troops, blades flashing from multiple angles. One soldier fired wildly, blasting its own ally in the confusion, and Nara's real blade found its mark, silencing the chaos with precise lethality. Up on the command deck, Jax and Zara faced their own climax. The flagship's cannon fired, a beam of pure void energy that tore through the outpost's shields like paper, buckling the primary hull. The deck lurched violently, throwing Jax against the console, alarms screaming catastrophic breach imminent. Zara grabbed him, pulling him back, her body shielding his in a moment of raw, protective instinct. "We can't take another hit," she urged, her voice breathless, face inches from his, lips parted in dramatic tension. Jax's eyes narrowed, curiosity sparking amid the thrill. What if he turned their weapon against them? Scanning the enemy's signature, he spotted a vulnerability. The flagship's cannon drew power from an exposed ventral array, a design flaw born of arrogance. "Hold on," he growled, rerouting every scrap of energy from life support to the disruptor. The outpost dimmed, gravity fluctuating wildly, but the beam fired true, a twisting vortex that latched onto the array, yanking with inexorable force. The flagship groaned audibly over the comms, its structure protesting as panels ripped free, exposing sparking innards. Varak's voice boomed through the speakers then, a dramatic thunder that filled the deck. "Insolent Terran, you dare challenge the Overlord of Shadows? Your primitive tricks end here." The words dripped with menace, but Jax detected a tremor, fear. Surprise, it fueled him. "Come and get some," then, he shot back, voice steady as he amped the beam. The *Nomad**S ingenuity pushing the outpost systems to their limit. Below, the sisters fought on, the battle reaching a fever pitch. Elara, ribs aching but spirit unbroken, rallied them, pushed them back to their pods. But surprise struck like lightning. A hidden squad of elite infiltrators, cloaked in phase-shifting armor, materialized behind Nara. One seized her from the shadows, its claw digging into her arm, drawing luminescent blood that sizzled on the floor. She cried out, a sound that twisted Jax's gut even from afar. Relayed through the comms, the thrill turned to rage. Jax abandoned the guns, bolting for the lower decks, facer blazing. "Nara, hang on," Zara followed, her blade ignited, the two of them a whirlwind tearing through the fray. Jax arrived just in time, diving into the melee with human ferocity, tackling the infiltrator off Nara, rolling across the deck in a tangle of limbs and fury. His fist connected with the helmet, cracking it, while his facer fired into the joint seals, overheating the suit until it vented steam and collapsed. Nara rose shakily, her eyes meeting his with wide-eyed surprise, gratitude blooming into something electric. "You came for me." Her hand touched his face, trembling, the touch lingering amid the chaos, a curious spark in her gaze. What manner of man rushes into the void for a stranger's kin? But the drama escalated. Varak himself beamed down in a swirl of dark energy, materializing amid his troops like a demon unchained. Taller than before, augmented further with writhing shadow tendrils, he towered over the corridor, his pit-black eyes fixing on Jax. "The human pet," he snarled, voice echoing with augmented reverb. "Elara's savior, you'll die screaming and your women with you." He lashed out with a tendril, whipping toward Elara, who barely parried with her blade, the impact sending her skidding back. The climax unfolded in heart-pounding seconds. Jax charged, facer set to overload, but Varak anticipated, backhanding him across the deck. Pain exploded in Jax's chest, ribs cracking, but he rolled to his feet, curiosity turning to revelation. Varak's shadows weren't just weapons, they fed on fear, growing stronger with it. "Not today," Jax spat, blood trickling from his lip. He feigned a stumble, drawing the Overlord in, then unleashed a hidden gadget from his suit, a EMP grenade. Salvaged from the *Nomad*, pulsing with human ingenuity. The blast rippled out, shorting Varak's augmentations in a shower of sparks. The Overlord howled, shadows recoiling like burned flesh, his form glitching. The sisters seized the moment. Lyra's telekinesis hurled debris at him, Zara's blade slashed his defenses, Nara's illusions multiplied their strikes, and Elara drove home the final thrust, her energy piercing his core. Varak staggered, surprise etching his features. Impossible. A Terran leads you. Before dissolving in a vortex of dissipating energy, his essence sucked back to the flagship. The troops faltered, retreating to their pods in disarray. The outpost stabilized, shields flickering back online as Zara rerouted power from above. Jax slumped against the wall, breathing ragged, the sisters converging on him in a rush of concern and awe. Elara knelt first, her hands gentle on his wounds, tears glistening in her violet eyes. You turned the tide. Again, but how? That device? Trade secret, Jax rasped, managing a grin despite the pain, curiosity mirrored in their faces. What other surprises did this human hold? As the flagship withdrew, limping into the nebula's embrace, a new transmission crackled through, not Varak's voice, but a deeper, more ominous one, his shadowy benefactor, hinting at greater forces at play. The victory was thrilling, but the war, far from over, and in the quiet aftermath, as the sisters tended to him with touches that blurred the line between care and caress, Jax wondered just how deep this cosmic entanglement would pull him. The med bay's soft hum enveloped them like a cocoon. Queen Thalira's recovery pod glowing nearby as Elara's sisters worked in tandem to patch Jax's wounds. Lyra's telekinetic touch mended fractures with gentle pulses. Zara applied salves that burned then soothed, and Nara's illusions masked the pain with fleeting visions of serene nebulae. But Elara, she stayed closest, her fingers tracing patterns on his skin that sent shivers unrelated to injury. The drama of the battle lingered, heart still pounding, the air thick with unspoken questions. Who was Varak's master, and what price would their oath exact in the stars ahead? Jax winced as Lyra's telekinetic pulses knit his cracked ribs back into place, the sensation like invisible hands massaging away the ache with a warmth that bordered on too intimate. The med bay's sterile hum did little to dampen the charged atmosphere, where the glow from Queen Thalira's recovery pod cast ethereal shadows across the sisters' faces, highlighting the curve of Zara's focused brow as she dabbed the last of the salve onto a gash on his forearm. Nara's illusions had faded, leaving behind a faint afterimage of starry peace that dissolved into the reality of their shared exhaustion. Elara's touch, however, lingered like a promise unfulfilled, her fingers drawing lazy, hypnotic circles on his chest, just above the line of his flight suit, each swirl sending ripples of heat through him that had nothing to do with healing and everything to do with the growing awkwardness of the moment. The Queen's even breathing from the pod was the only sound breaking the tension, a rhythmic reminder that they'd snatched victory from the jaws of cosmic disaster. But as the adrenaline ebbed, the unspoken questions Elara had voiced bubbled to the surface, turning the air thick with drama. Jax shifted on the medcot, trying to ignore how Elara's proximity made his skin tingle, her white hair brushing his shoulder like silk threads from another world. So, he ventured, his voice gruff to mask the vulnerability creeping in, about that transmission at the end. Varak's boss, whoever's pulling his strings, sounded like bad news wrapped in worse. Any ideas on how we play this next hand? Elara's violet eyes lifted to meet his, darkening with a mix of resolve and reluctance, her hand pausing mid-trace but not withdrawing. The voice? It carried the echo of the Shadow Concord, an ancient cabal that lurks in the nebula's core. They seek to harvest Illyrian essence on a scale that could unravel sectors. Varak was their pawn, but now that he's diminished, they'll come for us directly. For you, Jax, the human who disrupted their plans. Her words hung heavy, heightening the drama like a gathering storm, and the sisters exchanged glances, their elfin ears twitching in unison. A silent communication that made Jax feel like the odd man out in his own skin. Lyra pulled back slightly, her emerald gaze softening as she adjusted the pod settings, but not before her telekinetic field brushed against Jax's mind, a fleeting curiosity, like a whisper asking if he felt the pull of their oath as acutely as they did. The Concord has spies everywhere, she added, her voice a melodic undertone to the tension. They'll exploit any weakness, and with Mother still recovering. She trailed off, the implication clear, the outpost was no longer safe. They were sitting targets in a web of shadows. Zara snorted softly, wiping her hands on a med cloth, her fierce demeanor cracking just enough to reveal a spark of humor amid the gloom. Weakness? With this Terran here, the man's got more tricks than a nebula trickster. Remember how he turned Varak's own shadows against him? I thought the Overlord was going to glitch out and start reciting poetry. She mimed a dramatic flourish with her hands, her lithe form leaning against the cot's edge. close enough that her knee bumped Jax's thigh, a casual touch that turned awkward when she didn't move it right away, her eyes flicking to his with a playful glint. Though, Jax, if your EMP grenade was any more improvised, I half expected it to summon a flock of space pigeons instead. Nara burst into a giggle, the sound light and infectious, cutting through the drama like a ray of unexpected sunlight. She perched on the cot's foot, her azure drape slipping precariously low on one shoulder, revealing a tantalizing glimpse of curve that made Jax's gaze dart away in sudden embarrassment. Space pigeons? Oh, Zara, you're terrible. But seriously, Jax, that gadget, did you pull it from your? Well, you know? She waggled her eyebrows, the illusionist's mischief turning the moment hilariously awkward as the sisters all turned to him, waiting for the punchline. Elara's cheeks flushed a delicate pink against her porcelain skin, her fingers resuming their patterns, but now with a hesitant rhythm, as if unsure whether to laugh or pull him closer. Jax chuckled despite himself, the sound rumbling from his chest and easing the knot of tension there. Hey, a man's got his secrets. Let's just say it's the family jewels, passed down from my granddad, who swore by duct tape and spite. The humor landed, drawing smiles from the group, but it only amplified the awkwardness. Here he was, bandaged and battle-worn, surrounded by 4 stunning alien women whose oath bound them to him in ways that felt equal parts honor and hazard. His mind flashed to Elara's earlier promise in the cockpit, the heat of her body against his, and now with her sisters adding their own layers of flirtation and loyalty. The drama swelled. What if this service meant more than just fighting side by side? The thought sent a flush creeping up his neck, making him shift again, only to bump into Nara's foot, eliciting another round of giggles. Enough levity, Elara said firmly, though her lips twitched with amusement, her hand finally stilling on his chest as she straightened, the regal poise returning. But the drama reignited as the outpost's comms crackled to life, a distorted signal breaking through the static, not the Concord, but a distress beacon from a nearby Illyrian scout vessel, its coordinates flashing urgently on the med bay's auxiliary screen. It's Lyra, one of our outriders. She's under attack, hemmed in by Concord interceptors. If we don't respond... Elara's voice faltered, the weight of command pressing down, her eyes pleading with Jax in a way that twisted his heart. The awkward humor evaporated, replaced by a surge of protective instinct. Jax swung his legs off the cot, ignoring the twinge in his side, and stood, towering over the sisters in the confined space, which only made things more comically cramped as Zara and Nara had to sidestep, their bodies brushing his in the shuffle. Then we respond. Plot a course, I'll fly us in, but if we're doing this, we do it smart. No more half-cocked charges. He caught Elara's eye, the double meaning unintentional but landing with awkward precision, her flush deepening as Lyra stifled a smirk. As they mobilized, the outpost's corridors felt narrower, the drama building with every step. Queen Thalira stirred in her pod, murmuring weakly about the human's light, her words a prophetic whisper that hung over them like a curse or a blessing. They piled into the Nomad asterisk, Jax at the helm, the sisters distributing themselves around the cockpit and cargo bay with efficient grace, Elara co-piloting, her thigh pressed against his again in the tight quarters, Zara and Lyra manning the turrets, their banter laced with teasing jabs at his primitive controls, Nara rigging illusion projectors to mask their approach, her playful commentary turning every command into a punchline. The jump to hyperspace was smooth, but emerging near the scout vessel's position thrust them into chaos. Concord interceptors, sleek, shadow-cloaked fighters, swarmed the beleaguered Illyrian ship like wolves on a wounded deer, lasers crisscrossing the void in deadly patterns. Jax's hands flew over the console, the Nomad diving into the fray with a whoop from Nara over the intercom. Incoming, eat disruptor, you shadowy suckers. The humor clashed with the heightened drama as the first interceptor locked on, its beam grazing their shields and sending the ship into a spin that tumbled everyone in the cockpit, Elara landing half in Jax's lap, her gown riding up in a mortifying tangle of limbs and fabric. Sorry, she gasped, scrambling to right herself, but not before her hand landed squarely on his inner thigh, the contact electric and utterly awkward. Jax's face burned, his evasive maneuver turning jerky as he muttered, "No worries, hold on tight," the double entendre hanging comically in the air. Zara's laughter echoed from the turret. Focus, hero, or do humans pilot with their distractions? The battle intensified, drama peaking as the scout vessel took a direct hit, venting atmosphere in a plume of glittering debris. Jax unleashed the disruptor, yanking 2 interceptors into collision, but a third slipped through, raking the Nomad S side and breaching a cargo hold. Alarms blared, and in the sudden decompression, loose panels flew, one smacking Nara in the rear as she sealed the bulkhead, eliciting a yelp and a string of colorful Illyrian curses that sounded hilariously like poetry. By the nebula's naughty bits, that hurt more than Varak's ego. Lyra's telekinesis stabilized the ship from the bay, but the awkwardness mounted when Jax had to vent the hold manually, sucking out the debris and nearly a forgotten crate of his salvaged Earth relics, including a case of ancient beer that tumbled into space like shooting stars. "Ah, man, my emergency rations," he groaned, the humor lightening the tension even as Elara's hand steadied on his shoulder. Her touch now at anchor amid the storm, they rescued Lyra's vessel just in time, tractors locking on and towing it to safety, but the Concord fighters regrouped, their leader hailing with a voice that chilled the cockpit, the same ominous tone from before. "Terran interloper, you meddle in affairs beyond your stars. Surrender the Illyrian heirs or watch your worlds burn." The threat hung, drama swelling to new heights, but Jax's response was pure human sass. "Yeah, tell your boss to send better toys next time. Ours come with free explosions." As they limped back to the outpost, the awkward situations piled on. Nara's illusions glitching from the damage, projecting holographic duplicates of the sisters that popped up in embarrassing places, like one Elara lounging provocatively on the nav console. The laughter helped, but the underlying drama gnawed. The Concord was closing in, and with the Queen's words echoing, Jax felt the weight of destiny. What if his light was the key to saving Illyria or dooming it? And as Elara leaned in during repairs, her breath warm on his neck, whispering thanks that bordered on invitation, the humor faded into a charged silence. The stars ahead promised more than battles. They promised entanglements that could unravel them all. Docking back at the outpost, the group spilled into the central chamber, the air still humming with residual energy from the fight. Queen Thalira had awakened partially, her amethyst eyes appraising Jax with a knowing smile that only added to the awkward undercurrent. "The human binds us tighter than any chain," she murmured, her voice weak but laced with intrigue. The sisters hovered, their touches lingering, Zara adjusting his collar with unnecessary care, Nara accidentally brushing his hand, turning the post-battle debrief into a comedy of errors and escalating drama. Lyra, the rescued scout, arrived with news. Concord spies had infiltrated the nebula's trade lanes, cutting off escape routes. "We're trapped," she said flatly, heightening the stakes. Jax rubbed his temples, the humor of the moment clashing with the reality. "Trapped? Nah, just fashionably late to the party." But inside, doubt crept in, the awkward pull of 4 pairs of eyes on him making him feel like a prize in a cosmic raffle. Elara stepped closer, her voice low. "We'll face it together, my lord. As your servants, and more." The word lord sent a jolt through him, awkward and thrilling, as the chamber's lights dimmed for power conservation, shadows playing across their forms in ways that promised the night's drama was far from over. The dimming lights of the central chamber wrapped around them like a lover's embrace, casting long, intimate shadows that danced across the polished obsidian walls of the outpost. Jax stood at the heart of it all, the weight of the day's battles settling into his bones like a heavy fog. But it was the sisters' lingering touches that truly anchored him, Zara's fingers still idly toying with the collar of his flight suit, Nara's hand withdrawing from his with a coy brush that left a trail of warmth, and Elara's proximity, so close now that he could feel the subtle rise and fall of her breath syncing with his own. Queen Thalira's murmured words echoed in his mind, binding them tighter than any chain, and Lyra's dire news of the trapped trade lanes hung like a specter, but in this suspended moment, the drama softened into something more personal, more primal. The Concord's shadows could wait, the pull between him and these ethereal women, bound by oath and attraction, demanded attention. Elara's voice, low and resonant in the hushed chamber, carried a promise that sent a shiver down Jax's spine. "My lord," she repeated, the title rolling off her tongue like a caress, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made the air between them hum. The others, Lyra with her steady emerald gaze, Zara's fierce spark, Nara's playful gleam, watched, their own desires mirroring hers, a collective energy that enveloped him like the nebula's embrace. Jax felt exposed, not just from the fight's toll but from the raw vulnerability of their admiration, the way they saw him not as a mere human scavenger but as a beacon, a savior worthy of their deepest loyalties. "You've given us everything," Elara continued, stepping even closer, her gown's iridescent fabric whispering against his leg. Now, let us give back. As your cosmic servants, we honor the bond in ways that transcend words or battles. The chamber's power conservation plunged them further into twilight, the only illumination coming from the faint glow of the sisters' skin, a luminescent aura that highlighted their graceful forms, the elegant sweep of their pointed ears, the cascade of white hair framing faces flushed with anticipation, and the way their attire clung to curves honed by starlit grace. Jax's heart pounded, a mix of doubt and desire warring within him. This wasn't Earth, where such entanglements came with rules and regrets. Here, in the vastness of space, oaths like theirs were sacred, woven into the fabric of their world, but the awkwardness from earlier lingered, turning the moment charged with a nervous thrill. Elara, sisters, he said, his voice husky, reaching out to cup her cheek, his thumb tracing the soft line of her jaw. I don't want to take advantage. This oath, it's heavy, are you sure? Lyra moved first, her telekinetic presence a gentle wave that eased the tension from his shoulders, like invisible fingers kneading away the knots of battle. Sure, she echoed, her voice a melodic whisper as she positioned herself behind him, her hands sliding down his arms with a tenderness that made his breath catch. Jax, you saved our mother, our kingdom. In Illyrian ways, such a debt is repaid with the soul's fire. We choose this, freely, with joy. Her body pressed lightly against his back, warm and inviting, her white hair tickling his neck as she leaned in, lips brushing his ear in a featherlight kiss that sent sparks dancing across his skin. Zara and Nara flanked him then, their touches bolder yet still reverent, Zara's hand finding his waist, pulling him gently toward a cluster of plush seating alcoves designed for Illyrian repose, soft, nebula-weave cushions that molded to the body like clouds. We've dreamed of a human's touch, Zara confessed, her fierce eyes softening as she guided his hand to her hip, the fabric of her gown thin enough to feel the heat beneath. Legends speak of your passion, unbridled and true, let us show you ours. Nara, ever the spark of levity, added a playful nip to his other earlobe, her giggle muffled against his skin. And don't worry, hero, we won't bite, unless you ask nicely. The humor in her words broke the last barrier, drawing a low laugh from Jax that rumbled through the group, easing the drama into a shared intimacy. Elara led him to the alcove, the others following in a graceful circle, their forms silhouetted against the chamber's glow. She knelt before him as he sank into the cushions, her hands deftly working the seals of his flight suit, peeling it away layer by layer with a care that bordered on worship. The cool air of the outpost kissed his exposed skin, but it was their warmth that enveloped him, Elara's lips pressing soft, exploratory kisses along his collarbone, trailing downward in a path that ignited every nerve. Feel us, she murmured, her breath hot against his chest. As we feel you, this is our gratitude, our devotion. Jax's hands roamed, tentative at first, then with growing confidence, tracing the lines of Elara's neck, down to the swell of her breasts where her gown parted like mist under his touch. She arched into him, a soft moan escaping her lips, the sound vibrating through him like a star's pulse. Lyra joined from behind, her telekinetic field enhancing the sensations, a subtle vibration that danced along his spine, heightening every caress. Zara's fingers intertwined with his, guiding them to the ties of her own attire, which fell away to reveal the luminous expanse of her skin, smooth and inviting. She captured his mouth in a kiss that was fierce yet tender, tongues exploring with a rhythm that mirrored the stars' eternal dance, deep, consuming, laced with the spice of her nebula-born essence. Nara, not to be outdone, slipped to his side, her playful energy turning sensual as she trailed kisses along his thigh, her white hair fanning out like a halo. The alcove became a sanctuary of shared breath and whispered endearments, the sisters' bodies intertwining with his in a symphony of gentle exploration. Elara straddled his lap, her hips moving in slow, undulating waves that pressed her core against him, the friction building a fire that made his head spin. Jax, she breathed, her violet eyes half-lidded with pleasure. You are our light in the void, take us, as one. Her movements grew more insistent, guiding him into her warmth, a union that was both physical and profound, her inner glow pulsing in time with their joining, sending waves of ecstasy rippling through them both, the others wove around them, Lyra's hands cupping Elara's breasts from behind, eliciting gasps that echoed softly. Zara's lips finding Jax's neck, her bites light and teasing, marking him with affectionate nips. Nara's fingers tracing patterns on his chest, her illusions flickering briefly to project faint, starry auras that heightened the romance without overwhelming the moment. It was a tapestry of sensation, soft skin sliding against skin, breaths mingling in harmonious sighs, bodies arching and yielding in perfect accord. Jax lost himself in the rhythm, his hands gripping Elara's hips as she rode the waves of their connection, her moans growing breathier, more urgent, until a shared climax crested like a supernova, leaving them trembling in its afterglow. But the night was far from over. The sisters rotated with a seamless grace, each taking her turn to deepen the bond. Zara claimed him next, her fierce passion a contrast to Elara's tenderness, her movements bold, hips grinding with a warrior's intensity, her nails raking lightly down his back as she whispered praises in his ear, words of strength and surrender. "You conquer without force," she gasped, her body clenching around him in release, pulling him with her into another peak of bliss. Lyra followed, her telekinetic touch adding layers of ethereal pleasure, vibrations that resonated through their union, making every thrust feel amplified, infinite. She moved with a serene rhythm, her emerald eyes locked on his, sharing visions of nebulae in her mind's eye, colors exploding behind his eyelids as they crested together, a psychic and physical harmony that left him breathless. Nara brought the levity back, her playful explorations turning into a delightful tangle of limbs and laughter-mingled moans, her illusions creating fleeting sensations of weightlessness that made their joining feel like floating among the stars. "See, even in passion, humans surprise," she teased, her body enveloping him in warmth, her release a cascade of giggles and shudders that drew him over the edge once more. Finally, all four converged again, their hands and lips a chorus of caresses, bodies pressing close in a shared embrace where boundaries blurred. Jax found himself at the center, loved and loving, the oath transforming from duty to delight, each touch a reaffirmation of their cosmic pact. As the waves subsided, they lay entwined on the cushions, skin glistening with a faint luminescent sheen from their mingled essences, breath slowing to a contented rhythm. The chamber's lights flickered back to a soft amber, but the intimacy lingered, wrapping them in a cocoon of afterglow. Elara nestled against his chest, her fingers tracing lazy hearts on his skin, while the others curled around them, Zara's head on his shoulder, Lyra's leg draped over his, Nara's hand in his. "This is but the beginning," Elara whispered, her voice drowsy with satisfaction. "Our service extends beyond the stars, my lord. In your arms, we find our true power." Jax held them close, the drama of the Concord's threat momentarily forgotten in this haven of connection. But even in repose, a subtle vibration hummed through the outpost, an incoming signal, faint but insistent, hinting that the shadows weren't done encroaching. For now, though, he savored the warmth, the subtle shifts of bodies against his, the soft sighs that promised more nights like this amid the galaxy's turmoil. The bond they'd forged was unbreakable, a light against the void, and as sleep tugged at him, Jax knew that whatever came next, they'd face it together, bodies, hearts, and souls intertwined. Yet, the peace was fragile. In the quiet hours, as the sisters dozed in sated repose, Jax slipped from the alcove, his mind racing despite the exhaustion. The signal persisted, an encrypted burst from an unknown source, decoding slowly on a nearby console. It revealed coordinates not to escape, but to a hidden Illyrian artifact, one that could turn the tide against the Concord. But activating it required a union of essences, a ritual that echoed the night's intimacies on a grander scale. The drama reignited in his thoughts. Would this deepen their bond or demand a sacrifice? Elara stirred, sensing his absence, and patted over, her naked form glowing softly in the low light, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "What troubles you, beloved?" she asked, her chin on his shoulder, the contact stirring embers of desire anew. He turned, pulling her close, their bodies aligning effortlessly. A lead on the artifact, but it might require more from us, from all of us. Her eyes sparkled with understanding, a hand sliding down his abdomen in a reassuring caress. "Then we'll embrace it as we embraced you. Our passion is our strength." The others awakened, drawn by the console's glow, and soon they gathered, bodies still flushed from earlier, discussing the ritual with a mix of excitement and solemnity. It involved channeling their combined energies through intimate synchronization, a cosmic tantra. Elara explained, where physical union amplified Illyrian powers. As dawn's simulated light filtered through the viewport, they prepared, the chamber transforming into a ritual space with nebula crystals pulsing in harmony. Jax lay at the center once more, the sisters surrounding him, their touches reigniting the fire, gentle kisses, exploring hands, bodies pressing in a circle of devotion. Elara initiated, straddling him again, her warmth welcoming as the others linked hands, their glows merging into a radiant aura. The union built slowly, sensually, each movement a conduit for energy, moans blending with the crystal's hum. Zara's turn wove in telepathic threads from Lyra, sensations multiplying. Nara's playfulness added sparks of illusionary ecstasy, making the ritual feel boundless. Climax came as a unified wave, essences flowing not just in passion but in power, the artifact's signal amplifying into a beacon that pierced the nebula. They collapsed in a tangle of limbs, spent and empowered, the outpost systems surging with newfound energy. But the signal's response was immediate, a Concord probe, drawn like a moth to flame. The drama peaked anew, but now, fortified by their bond, Jax rose with the sisters, ready to defend what they'd claimed. The night's passions had not just sated, they'd armed them for the stars ahead. The chamber's nebula crystals still thrummed with residual energy, their soft pulses syncing with the quickened breaths of the group as the artifact's beacon flared to life on the central console, casting a brilliant azure light that bathed their entwined forms in an otherworldly sheen. Jax rose slowly from the ritual's epicenter, his body humming with the amplified vitality they'd channeled together. The sisters' essences now a part of him, a cosmic symphony that sharpened his senses and mended the last echoes of fatigue. Elara clung to his side, her luminous skin pressed against his, while Zara, Lyra, and Nara gathered their discarded gowns with languid grace, their eyes alight with the shared triumph of the union. The Concord probe's approach registered on the sensors as a blip of encroaching malice, but Jax felt no fear. This new power coursed through him like liquid starfire, making the void outside seem conquerable, the shadows mere illusions to be dispelled. "They're here," Zara murmured, her voice a husky blend of satisfaction and vigilance as she sealed her attire, the fabric molding to her curves once more. She moved to the viewport, her pointed ears perking at the faint whine of the probe's engines piercing the outpost's hull integrity fields. Lyra's telekinetic scan rippled outward, probing the intruder's intent, while Nara wove subtle illusions around the chamber's entrances, veiling them in deceptive calm. Elara's hand tightened on Jax's arm, her violet gaze meeting his with unshakable trust. "The ritual worked beyond our hopes. Your light? Jax, it's awakened the artifact's full potential. We can repel them now, together." Jax nodded, pulling on his flight suit with renewed vigor, the material feeling almost too confining against his heightened awareness. Every nerve sang with their combined essence. He could almost taste the nebula's winds, feel the probe's cold, mechanical heart beating in the distance. "Let's give him a welcome they won't forget," he said, his grin fierce, stepping to the controls with the sisters arrayed behind him like a constellation of warriors and lovers. The probe docked with a metallic thud that vibrated through the deck, its hatch irising open to reveal not the expected drone swarm, but a single figure emerging into the airlock, a cloaked silhouette that unfolded with deliberate menace. The chamber's defenses hummed to life under Lyra's command, energy barriers shimmering into place, but the intruder raised empty hands, the cloak falling away to expose Queen Thalira? No, not quite. The woman who stepped forward was Thalira's mirror image, yet twisted, her white hair streaked with Inkai voids, her porcelain skin marred by shadowy veins that pulsed like living tattoos, and her amethyst eyes burned with a hunger that chilled the air. The real queen lay in the recovery pod, still deep in restorative slumber, but this apparition moved with predatory confidence, her gown a tattered remnant of royal silk, clinging to her voluptuous form in ragged allure. "Mother," Elara gasped, her voice cracking with disbelief, the word hanging in the chamber like a fracture in reality. The sisters froze, their unity fracturing in that instant, Zara's blade half-drawn, Lyra's telekinesis faltering, Nara's illusions flickering uncertainly. Jax's hand instinctively went to his facer, but the figure's lips curved in a smile that was both maternal and malevolent, a twist that sent a jolt through him sharper than any battle wound. "Not your mother, dear one," the apparition purred, her voice an echo of Thalira's but laced with a digital undercurrent, like whispers from the void itself. "I am Thalira's shadow, her essence, siphoned by Varak before your human pet intervened. The Overlord didn't perish in that glitchy demise. He fragmented me, bound me to the Concord's will, and now, with your little ritual..." She trailed off, her gaze sweeping over the group, lingering on Jax with a knowing gleam that made his skin crawl. "You've handed me the key." That union, it resonated through the nebula weave. I felt every pulse, every sigh, your essences, deliciously potent. The revelation hit like a warp core breach, a powerful twist that upended everything, their victory, their intimacy, the very foundation of their bond. Jax's mind reeled. This wasn't just an enemy probe, it was a ghost of the Queen, a parasitic echo weaponized by the Concord, drawn inexorably to the artifact's activation because of the ritual's intimate surge. Elara staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth, horror dawning in her violet eyes. No, the drain on Mother, it wasn't complete. You've been waiting? The shadow Thalira laughed, a sound like cracking crystal, advancing as the energy barriers parted under her influence, the artifact's power, meant to empower, now betraying them through this unforeseen link. Waiting? I've been feasting on the fringes of your mind since Nyxara. That oath you swore to the human, it amplified the resonance. I am part of you now, daughter's mine, and you, Terran. Her eyes bored into Jax, the shadowy veins on her skin writhing like serpents. Your ingenuity, it's the catalyst. The Concord foresaw a human might disrupt their plans, but not like this, not by igniting a fire that calls their shadows home. Zara lunged first, her energy blade igniting in a blaze of fury, but the shadow evaded with unnatural fluidity, her form phasing like mist. You stole from us. Zara snarled, slashing wildly, only for the apparition to reform behind her, a tendril of void energy lashing out to wrap around her wrist, siphoning a flicker of her glow. Zara cried out, dropping to one, the drain pulling at her essence, the same intimate energy they'd shared with Jax moments ago. Lyra unleashed a telekinetic barrage, hurling consoles and crystals at the intruder, but the shadow absorbed them, growing denser, her laughter echoing as she countered with a psychic wave that buckled Lyra's defenses, forcing her to clutch her head in agony. Nara's illusions erupted in a desperate frenzy, dozens of phantom sisters swarming the chamber, blades and bodies blurring the lines of reality, but the shadow pierced through, her eyes gleaming with cruel insight. Illusions? Child's play. I know your fears, your desires. That playful spark, it's mine to dim. A tendril snaked toward Nara, grazing her arm and drawing a luminescent wisp, the illusionist collapsing with a whimper, her glow fading to a pallid flicker. Elara, tears streaming down her cheeks, raised her own blade, but Jax stepped between them, facer raised not at the shadow, but at the artifact console, realization dawning in a surge of human clarity. Stop, she's bluffing partially. The resonance, it's a two-way street. If she's linked, we can overload her. But the shadow's smile widened, the twist deepening as she extended a hand, not an attack, but invitation. Overload me? Oh, Jax Harlan, you sweet, predictable ape, join me. The Concord offers power beyond your wildest dreams, not just these daughters as servants, but queens. Imagine it, you, ruling the nebula with me at your side, their essences fueling your every whim. The offer hung there, a seductive poison, and for a heartbeat, Jax faltered, the image flashing unbidden, him enthroned. The sisters not free-willed lovers but thralls to his amplified desires, the galaxy bending to his will. But it was the surprise of it, the perversion of everything he'd fought for, that snapped him back. Not my style, he growled, firing the facer at the console instead, the beam arcing to disrupt the beacon's flow. The chamber shuddered, crystals cracking as the energy reversed, flooding back toward the shadow. The apparition shrieked, her form destabilizing, voids in her skin expanding like cracks in ice. You fool, this will consume you all. But Jax pressed on, grabbing Elara's hand, their bond, forged in passion, now a conduit. Together channel it. The sisters, weakened but resolute, rallied Zara's fury, Lyra's mind, Nara's illusions weaving a net around the shadow, Elara's love anchoring the surge. The power reversed in a cataclysmic rush. The intimate essences they'd shared turning against the parasite, burning it from within. The shadow Thalira writhed, her regal form twisting into agony, confessions spilling in her death throes, the twist's full revelation. Varak hadn't been the Concord's pawn, he was a rogue, and the shadow was his final gambit, a fragment designed to possess the queen fully upon rescue. But Jax's intervention, their union, had severed the link prematurely, making the shadow a desperate scavenger. The Concord, they come for the artifact now? Untainted, she gasped, before dissolving in a vortex of screaming voids, sucked back into the probe's core, which detonated in a controlled blast that the outpost shields barely contained. Silence fell, broken only by ragged breaths and the hum of failing systems. The sisters slumped against Jax, their glows returning in faint pulses, the drain reversed but leaving them drained, vulnerable. Elara buried her face in his chest, sobs racking her. It was her, our mother's echo, twisted. Zara punched the wall weakly, cursing in Illyrian tongues, while Lyra and Nara clung to each other, illusions of safety flickering around them like fragile shields. Jax held them all, the weight of the twist settling like lead, their greatest strength. Their passion had nearly been their undoing, a siren call from the shadows, but in surviving, they'd purified the artifact, its beacon now a pure call for Illyrian allies across the nebula. "We're stronger for it," he murmured, though doubt gnawed at him. The Concord would come, not for a tainted prize, but for the real thing, and with the Queen's true awakening imminent, the stakes had skyrocketed. As the outpost stabilized, a new signal arrived, not threat, but response, fleets of loyal Illyrian vessels converging, drawn by the cleansed beacon, yet the twist lingered in Jax's mind. If shadows could infiltrate so deeply, what other betrayals hid in the stars? Elara lifted her head, her kiss fierce against his lips, a reaffirmation amid the surprise. "You saw through it, our human, our heart." The others nodded, touches renewing their bond, but the chamber's viewport revealed the first Concord scouts on the horizon, the war's true face emerging. Queen Thalira stirred fully then, her pod hissing open, her eyes clear and knowing. "The shadow is gone," she whispered, rising with regal poise, appraising Jax with gratitude laced with surprise. But it revealed a truth. "The Concord fears you, Terran, not for your tricks, but for what you awaken in us." The drama shifted, the twist birthing a new alliance, the Queen joining them, her wisdom a weapon. As alarm sounded for the incoming fleets, Jax realized the surprise wasn't just survival, it was destiny rewritten, with him at its blazing core. The convergence began in earnest, Illyrian ships materializing from hyperspace like avenging angels, their hulls aglow with the same luminescence as the sisters' skin. Jax coordinated from the command deck, the group a unified front, Elara at his side, her hand in his, the sisters manning stations with renewed vigor, Thalira offering tactical insights that turned the tide before it crested. The Concord scouts scattered, but not without a final, chilling hail. "The Uniter falls, and the shadows rise eternal." The words echoed the shadows' warning, hinting at deeper machinations, a prophecy, perhaps, that Jax's light could either shatter the Concord or ignite their ultimate weapon. In the battle's lull, as the Allied fleet formed a protective cordon, the twist's aftershocks rippled through conversations. "How did it know our ritual?" Nara wondered aloud, her playfulness subdued, curling against Jax's leg as they rested. Lyra probed the artifact's logs telekinetically, uncovering encrypted fragments. The shadow had latched during the X-Aurel rescue, feeding on unspoken desires, amplifying them into a vulnerability. "It twisted our love," she said softly, "but couldn't break it." Zara, ever the warrior, sharpened her blade with grim determination. "Let them come, we'll burn their shadows with our fire." Thalira placed a hand on Jax's shoulder, her touch maternal yet charged with the same allure as her daughter's. "You've given us more than salvation, human, a future, but beware, the Concord's fear breeds desperation. They may strike at the heart next." The heart, Jax's, or the kingdom's, the surprise of the shadow had opened floodgates of uncertainty, but it also forged unbreakable resolve. As the fleet jumped toward Illyria's core worlds, Jax pulled Elara close in the cockpit, their kiss a defiant spark. The twist had taken them by surprise, but in its wake, they emerged transformed, lovers, warriors, a family bound by more than oath. The stars ahead burned brighter, but the voids between them hid teeth, and Jax, the unlikely human at the center, felt the galaxy's weight and its wonders. The hyperspace jump tore through the fabric of reality like a knife through silk. The asterisk stellar Nomad Asterisk and its newly forged Illyrian escort surging toward the glittering heart of the nebula's core worlds, where Illyria's throne spires pierced the cosmic haze like jeweled crowns. Jax lingered in the cockpit's embrace with Elara, their kiss deepening in the streaking lights of warp, a defiant anchor against the uncertainties swirling in his mind. Her lips were soft yet insistent, tasting of the ritual's lingering sweetness, nebula nectar and unyielding resolve, her body molding to his as if the stars themselves conspired to press them closer. The sisters and Queen Thalira had retreated to the hold for a brief council, leaving this stolen moment, but even as passion flared, the awkward undercurrent of their expanded family tugged at Jax like an ill-fitted spacesuit. What did one do with a queen and her daughters all bound to him by oath and essence? It was the kind of cosmic entanglement that would make even the galaxy's wisest sages blush. Elara pulled back first, her violet eyes searching his face, a flush coloring her porcelain cheeks that had nothing to do with the jump's vibrations. "Jax, with Mother awake and the artifact purified, we reclaim our home, but the Concord's words, they claw at me. The uniter falls. Is it you, or us? Her voice trembled, heightening the drama as the viewport filled with the nebula's swirling colors, a beautiful maelstrom that mirrored the turmoil within. Jax cupped her face, his thumb brushing her pointed ear, eliciting a soft shiver that made him acutely aware of how thin the cockpit walls were. Hey, prophecies are just bad poetry from folks who can't hack the future. We'll rewrite it together. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed. The shadow's twist had exposed vulnerabilities he hadn't anticipated, and now, with the queen in the mix, the dynamics felt like juggling plasma grenades. The jump ended with a gentle lurch, the fleet materializing in Illyria's outer defenses, a majestic armada of silver spires orbiting a throne world that shimmered like a living gem, its atmosphere alive with auroral veils. Cheers erupted over the comms from the allied vessels, but the celebration was short-lived. Sensors lit up like a fireworks mishap, Concord shadow fleets decloaking from the nebula's folds, dozens of vessels sleek, void-black behemoths bristling with essence siphons, closing in like predators scenting blood. Incoming hostiles, multiple signatures. Zara's voice barked from the hold, laced with that fierce edge that always sent a thrill through Jax, though now it carried an undernote of urgency that twisted his gut. They scrambled to stations, the *Nomad *S corridors a whirlwind of motion. Jax dashed aft, facer holstered, only to collide with Nara in the narrow passage, literally. She bounced off him with a yelp, her azure drape tangling around his legs in a comical knot that sent them both tumbling into the bulkhead. "Whoa, easy there, space klutz," Jax grunted, extricating himself while trying not to notice how the drape had slipped, revealing a tantalizing expanse of thigh that made his face heat up like an overclocked engine. Nara giggled, even as alarms blared, her white hair a disheveled halo as she righted herself. "Sorry, hero. Blame the zero-G wobbles from the jump, or maybe I'm just drawn to you like a comet to a sun." She winked, straightening her attire with exaggerated flair, but the humor fell flat against the rising tension. Concord tractors were already latching onto outlying Illyrian ships, siphoning their glow in eerie beams. Elara appeared at the hatch, her expression a storm of concern and amusement. "Nara, Jax, focus. Mother's on the bridge feed, she's rallying the fleet." But as they untangled, Queen Thalira's holographic form flickered into the corridor, projected from the main deck, her regal poise unbroken despite the chaos. "Daughters," Terran the Concord strikes at our heart. They seek the throne spire's nexus, where the kingdom's essence pools. Her amethyst eyes fixed on Jax, a maternal warmth in them that clashed awkwardly with the intimate knowledge she now shared of their ritual bond. It was like having your girlfriend's mom walk in mid-kiss, multiplied by 3. Jax straightened his suit, suddenly hyper-aware of the luminescent traces still marking his skin from the night before. "Your Majesty? Glad you're up and about. Any bright ideas on how we don't get essence sucked into oblivion?" Thalira's lips quirked in a smile that was equal parts queenly and knowing, heightening the awkwardness to new orbits. Bright ideas. From a human, legends abound, Jax Harlan. But yes, the nexus can be shielded if we synchronize our essences again. Through you. The implication hung there, bold as a supernova, and Jax nearly choked. Synchronize, here, now, with the queen watching? Nara stifled a snort, turning it into a cough, while Elara's cheeks burned brighter than the incoming lasers visible through the porthole. "Mother," she hissed, but Thalira waved it off. "Bond you forged is the key. Awkward or not, it's our salvation. Or do you prefer the shadows claim our light?" The drama escalated as the first Concord vessel breached the outer ring, its siphons lancing out like hungry tentacles, dimming an Illyrian cruiser in a heartbeat. Explosions bloomed silently in the void, debris spiraling in deadly arcs. Jax bolted to the bridge, the group piling in behind him, the cockpit now a sardine can of royalty. Warriors and one flustered human, Lyra manned the disruptor, her telekinetic focus knitting the controls with ethereal precision, but not before Zara elbowed Jax in the ribs during the shuffle. "Move it, lover boy, unless you want a pilot from my lap," she teased, her grin flashing white teeth, but her eyes betrayed the fear beneath. Humor was their shield, thin as it was. Jax slid into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the console, the *Nomad leaping forward like a thoroughbred in the gate. "All right, folks, hold onto your glows. We're going nexus diving." He wove through the fray, the fleet engaging in a ballet of destruction, Illyrian beams clashing with Concord voids, ships twisting in evasive spirals that painted the battle a chaotic masterpiece. But the awkwardness peaked when Thalira's hologram insisted on guiding the synchronization, her voice in their ears via the nebula weave, a psychic link that broadcasts sensations fleet-wide if they weren't careful. Focus on the bond, Jax. Channel it through touch, Elara's hand in yours, the others linked. Feel the flow? Elara's fingers intertwined with his on the throttle, her touch electric, but with Zara leaning over his shoulder to adjust the targeting, her breast brushing his arm, and Nara rigging illusions from the jump seat, her foot accidentally nudging his calf in rhythmic patterns that mimicked the ritual's cadence. The cockpit devolved into a farce of fumbling intimacy amid firepower. Nara, your foot, oh. Jax yelped as she pressed too hard, the nomad jerking sideways and clipping a Concord drone. Sorry, just trying to sync the vibes, she quipped, batting her lashes, but her laugh was strained, the humor a desperate buoy in the rising tide of drama. The throne's spire loomed ahead, a colossal edifice of crystal and alloy, its nexus chamber pulsing at the apex like a beating heart. Concord boarders were already swarming its flanks, shadowy figures rappelling in 0G. They're inside, Lyra cried, her telekinesis hurling a virtual barrier to slow them, but the strain showed, sweat beading on her brow, her emerald eyes wide. Thalira's hologram flickered urgently. To the nexus now, the synchronization must be physical, the weave demands it. Jax's stomach dropped. Physical, in the middle of this? Your Majesty, with all due respect, that's a tall order. Kinda in the hot seat here. But there was no choice. The nomad docked with a shuddering clang onto the spire's emergency port, the group spilling into the nexus chamber, a vast dome of swirling energies, the pool of essence roiling like liquid starlight at its center. Concord infiltrators poured in from breaches, their forms phasing through walls, weapons humming with void tech. The battle erupted in close quarters, Zara's blades singing through the air, severing tendrils, Lyra's mind waves crumpling armor, Nara's illusions multiplying their numbers into a hallucinatory horde. Elara fought at Jax's side, her energy blade extension of her will, but the Queen's command echoed. The pool link there, they retreated to the nexus edge, backs to the glowing pool, the drama reaching fever pitch as infiltrators closed in. This is insane, Jax muttered, facer blazing, dropping two shadows in rapid succession. But Thalira's voice cut through. Insane? Human, your kind thrives on it, touch them now. Awkward didn't begin to cover it, with enemies bearing down. Jax pulled Elara close, their hands linking over the pool's rim, while Zara and Nara pressed in from the sides, their bodies forming a chain, skin to skin, breaths mingling in a hasty, heated circle. Lyra completed it, her telekinesis binding their minds, but the contact was electric, sensations from the ritual flooding back unbidden, flashes of warmth, moans echoing in memory, making Jax's focus waver hilariously. Ladies' timing. Really? Nara snickered mid-link, her hand slipping comically to Jax's rear for stability. What? It's the weave, gotta get a good grip. Zara rolled her eyes, but her free hand squeezed his thigh, a mix of necessity and mischief. Focus, or I'll grip something else. Elara shot them a glare, but her own flush betrayed her, the chain igniting, the pool surging upward in response. Essence tendrils weaving around them like protective vines. The infiltrators recoiled, their voids repelled by the amplified glow, screaming as the light consumed them. But the humor shattered as a Concord elite, a towering brute with essence leech gauntlets, broke through, lunging for the Queen's hologram emitter. Thalira's form wavered. The emitter protected. Jax broke the chain momentarily, tackling the brute in a tangle of limbs that splashed them both into the pool's shallows. The essence soaked him, heightening everything, senses sharpening, but so did the awkward overload, visions of the sisters' forms flickering in his mind, intimate echoes that made him blush even as he wrestled the elite. Get off, you oversized vacuum, he grunted, jamming his facer into its visor and firing. The brute exploded in a void pop, but not before its gauntlet grazed his arm, siphoning a sliver of their shared essence, drama spiking as pain lanced through the link. Sisters gasping in unison, they rallied, the nexus now a fortress of light, repelling the remaining boarders in a blaze of coordinated fury. Zara finished the last with a flourish, her blade dripping shadow ichor. That's for interrupting family time, she panted, but the victory was bittersweet. The siphon had weakened the pool, and Thalira's hologram stabilized barely. The core worlds are secure, for now, but the Concord retreats to regroup. Their prophecy, it stirs something deeper. As the fleet mopped up, the group collapsed around the pool, bodies spent, the awkward chain dissolving into exhausted huddles. Nara flopped dramatically against Jax. Well, that was one way to bond. Next time, can we skip the bad guys? Laughter rippled, lightening the post-battle haze, but Elara's embrace tightened. Her whisper fraught, "The Uniter falls. What if it's the pool, or you?" Jax pulled her closer, the queen's approving gaze from the emitter, adding an odd layer of maternal awkwardness. Then we fall together and get back up laughing. Repairs began under the spire's glow, but scouts reported Concord armadas massing at the nebula's rim, a final push. Prophecies be damned. The drama built relentlessly. Awkward family dynamics clashing with heroic resolve. Thalira insisting on counseling sessions that veered too close to ritual recaps. Zara's teasing spars turning flirtatious. Nara's pranks lightening the load but nearly sparking a false alarm. In one such moment, as Jax tinkered with the Nomad S engines, Nara helped by handing tools only to pass him a wrench shaped like an Illyrian fertility idol. "Oops, wrong one," she innocently batted, while Elara groaned from afar. Nara, yet amid the humor, the stakes loomed, the Concord's desperation could shatter worlds. Thalira confided in Jax privately, her hologram intimate. "You've awakened more than power in my daughters, Terran, a future, but the fall, it may demand sacrifice." The words hung, awkward in their depth, as he nodded, the weight settling, the core worlds held, but the war's climax brewed, pulling them toward a reckoning where drama, awkwardness, and humor would forge their fate or break it. The spire's halls echoed with preparations, the sisters drilling Jax in Illyrian tactics that devolved into playful wrestling matches, Zara pinning him with warrior glee, only for Lyra to telekinetically trip her, sending them all tumbling in a heap of laughter and limbs. "Teamwork," Nara cheered from the sidelines, but Elara pulled him aside after, her kiss urgent. "This lightness, it's our armor, but Mother senses a traitor in the fleet, shadow-tainted." The drama spiked anew, paranoia threading through the mirth. Investigations began, awkward accusations flying, a navigator's odd glow, a tech's evasive glances. Humor surfaced when Nara illusioned the suspects into comical beasts, a navigator as a fluffy nebula cat, mewling denials. "Guilty or not, that's adorable." Jax chuckled, diffusing tension. But the traitor revealed himself in a midnight breach, a Concord sleeper sabotaging the Nexus relays. The chase through the spire's underlevels was a farce of slips and shouts, Jax tripping over his own feet in the dim light, the traitor quipping, "Humans always underfoot," but ending in grim drama as Zara cornered him, blade at throat. "Why?" she demanded. The shadows promised eternity. He spat, before the light claimed him, the betrayal cleansed, but scars remained, the fleet's trust frayed, the prophecy's shadow lengthening. As they boarded the Nomad for a preemptive strike, Thalira blessed them, her touch on Jax's brow electric. "Unite or fall, my son-in-law of stars." The title landed awkwardly, drawing snickers from the sisters, but Jax saluted with a grin. "Your Majesty, if this is family, sign me up for holidays." Laughter echoed, but as the engines roared, the nebula darkened with Concord silhouettes. The drama crested, awkward bonds their only light, hurtling toward the end game where humor might be their last laugh. The Stellar Nomad S engines thrummed with a primal roar, propelling the vessel and its Illyrian allies deeper into the nebula's shadowed embrace, where the Concord armadas loomed like a storm front of blackened thunderheads, their void hulls blotting out the starlight in a deliberate bid to instill dread. Jax gripped the controls, the familiar weight of the yoke grounding him amid the whirlwind of emotions, Elara's hand steady on his shoulder. A silent vow of unity. The sisters' voices overlapping in the comms with tactical precision laced with that irrepressible humor. Zara quipping about giving the shadows a glow-up they won't forget, while Nara's illusions already flickered across the fleet's flanks, painting decoy flares that danced like mischievous sprites. Queen Thalira's hologram graced the bridge once more, her presence a beacon of serene authority, her amethyst eyes reflecting the resolve that had carried her kingdom through eons. The betrayal's sting had been cauterized, the fleet's fractures mended in the forge of shared purpose, but the prophecy's echo, the Uniter falls, lingered like a half-forgotten dream. A subtle undercurrent that made every glance exchanged feel weighted with finality. As the armadas converged, the battle ignited in a spectacle of light and abyss. Concord siphons lancing out like spectral harpoons, only to clash against the purified Nexus energies now coursing through the Illyrian vessels. Jax wove the nomad through the maelstrom with the ingenuity that had defined him from the start, deploying the disruptor beam in erratic pulses that yanked enemy fighters into their own ranks, turning the void into a graveyard of crumpled hulls. Elara, sink the fleet's weave to my signal. He called, his voice steady, infused with the essence they'd all shared, that intimate fusion now a weapon of unparalleled harmony. She nodded, her white hair catching the console's glow like a halo, her fingers flying over the auxiliary panel as the sisters amplified the call. Lyra's telekinesis binding the energy flows. Zara's fury channeling strikes with unerring accuracy. Nara's illusions multiplying the fleet into a phantom armada that confused the Concord's targeting arrays. The drama of the clash built to a crescendo, the nebula alive with explosions that painted the darkness in fleeting bursts of color, Illyrian beams carving through shadows, Concord voids swallowing light only to regurgitate it in desperate counterfire. One massive dreadnought, the Concord's flagship, bore down on the throne's spire's projected defenses, its siphon array aimed like a cosmic spear at the Nexus heart. Alarms wailed across the nomad and Jax felt the pull of the prophecy sharpen, a chill that had nothing to do with the void. They're going for the kill, Thalira intoned calmly, her hologram unflinching. The uniter must stand at the fore. Jax met her gaze, the awkward familiarity of their bond, queen and savior, almost kin, now a source of strength rather than stumbling block. Then let's give him a show they'll etch in the stars. He punched the engines to full, the nomad streaking ahead like a lone arrow into the beast's maw, the sisters' voices a chorus of encouragement over the link. Jax, you mad Terran, don't get vaporized before I get my rematch. Zara teased, her blades hum audible even through the static, but beneath it lay the raw edge of fear, the humor a veil for the stakes. Nara's illusions cloaked the ship in a shroud of nebula mist, buying precious seconds, while Lyra's mind bridged the fleet, synchronizing a volley that lit the dreadnought's flanks in azure fire. Elara leaned into him, her breath warm against his neck. Together, she whispered, and in that word, the bond ignited fully, the essences they'd woven in passion and ritual surging as one, channeling through Jax like a river of starfire. The nomad plunged into the dreadnought's shadow, disruptor beam latching onto its siphon core with a gravitational roar that shook the ship to its frame. Hulls groaned, sparks flew from the consoles, and for a heart-stopping moment, the prophecy seemed to fulfill itself, the uniter falling as the dreadnought's voids clawed at the nomad essence tendrils snaking toward the cockpit like living nightmares. Jax's vision blurred, the drain tugging at his very soul, echoes of the shadow's hunger resurfacing in a disorienting wave. Not today, he ground out, fingers white-knuckled on the controls, drawing on the human grit that had carried him through nebulae and battles alike, the unyielding spark that aliens whispered of in awe. Then, the synchronized essences reversed the flow, the sisters' power flooding back through the link, amplified by the fleet's unified weave. The dreadnought shuddered, its core overloading in a chain reaction that rippled outward, consuming the armada in a domino cascade of implosions. Voids collapsed into themselves, shadows devouring their own makers, until the nebula cleared to reveal a triumphant dawn, the Concord remnants fleeing into the outer dark, their prophecy shattered not by fall, but by rise. Cheers erupted across the comms, a symphony of Illyrian song and human whoops. The throne's spire's nexus pulsing brighter than ever, its light a beacon for the kingdom's rebirth. As the fleet regrouped around the spire, the nomad docked with a gentle sigh, the battle's fury giving way to a profound quietude. Jax stepped onto the platform, the sisters enveloping him in a rush of embraces, Elara's kiss deep and lingering, Zara's backslap turning into a fierce hug, Nara's playful tackle that nearly toppled them all, Lyra's telekinetic lift that spun them in joyful zero-G. Queen Thalira awaited in the flesh now, her recovery complete, standing tall in robes of resplendent silver that shimmered like the nebula itself. The uniter has risen, she declared, her voice carrying to the assembled crowds on the spire's balconies, Illyrian nobles, warriors, and common folk who had watched the stars reclaim their glory. And in his light, so does Illyria. The days that followed blurred into a tapestry of celebration and renewal, the kingdom's wounds mending under the Nexus's restored glow. Jax found himself at the center, not as a conqueror, but as a bridge, human ingenuity woven into Illyrian grace, his presence a symbol of the star's boundless potential. Awkward moments peppered the festivities, Nara's illusions conjuring holographic fireworks that accidentally reenacted their cockpit tangle during a grand banquet, drawing laughter from the queen herself. Zara challenging him to sparring sessions that devolved into breathless chases through the spire's gardens, her taunts laced with affection. Even Thalira pulled him aside for private counsel, her wisdom shared over nebula wine, the maternal twinkle in her eye acknowledging the unconventional family they'd become without a hint of judgment. Yet it was in the quiet evenings that the true ending unfolded. Atop the spire's apex, where the nebula's veils parted to reveal the galaxy's infinite canvas. Elara led him their one twilight cycle, the sisters trailing like loyal shadows, their white hair catching the auroral winds. The queen followed, bearing a relic from the Nexus, a crystalline band etched with the weave's eternal sigil. "The oath you swore," Thalira began, her tone solemn yet warm, "has bound you not in servitude, but in sovereignty. Jax Harlan, Terran of the Stars, will you unite with my daughters as consort to the throne? To stand as Illyria's guardian, heart of our light?" Jax's breath caught, the weight of it all settling not as burden, but as home, the awkward human thrust into cosmic royalty, surrounded by loves that transcended worlds. He glanced at the sisters, Elara's violet eyes shining with hope, Zara's fierce nod, Lyra's serene smile, Nara's excited bounce. "Your Majesty, ladies," he said, voice thick with emotion. "From the moment Elara begged for help in that nebula trap, I've been all in. Yeah, hell yeah. Let's make the stars jealous." The ceremony was intimate, the Nexus pool mirroring their essences in a gentle glow as Thalira bound the band around Jax's wrist, linking it to circlets on the sisters, a union not of possession, but partnership, their touches reaffirming the passions that had forged their victory. Kisses followed, soft and profound, bodies drawing close in the aural light, a promise of nights to come where battles would yield to bliss. The kingdom rejoiced below, fireworks of true essence blooming across the spires, but up here, it was just them, a family of stars, human and Illyrian, unbreakable. Years wove onward like threads in the nebula's grand design. Jax, ever the explorer, piloted expeditions to uncharted voids, the sisters at his side, Elara as navigator and love, Zara as shield and spark, Lyra as mind and muse, Nara as whimsy and wonder. Queen Thalira ruled with renewed vigor, her daughter's consort a legend whispered across sectors, the human who saved a queen, claimed cosmic handmaidens, and turned shadows to stardust. The Concord's remnants scattered, their prophecies dust, for in unity no fall could claim them, and in the quiet moments, aboard the upgraded Nomad Asterisk, now a royal vessel with jury-rigged human flair, Jax would pull Elara close, the others curling around like a living constellation, their laughter echoing through the stars. "Who'd have thought," he'd murmur, "a lone freighter pilot ends up with a nebula for a backyard." Elara's kiss would silence him, whisper eternal, "The best stories always do." In the vastness of space, where humanity's fire burned brightest, Jax Harlan and his cosmic family sailed on heroes of their own epic, a testament to love's unyielding light, and the galaxy, it watched, inspired, ready for the next chapter in the endless saga of the stars. Years later, Jax Harlan stood on the balcony of the throne spire, the nebula's eternal dance framing his silhouette as he held Elara close. Their family, Zara, Lyra, Nara, and the next generation of starborn heirs gathered in joyful chaos. The galaxy had learned of the human who tamed shadows with love and grit, inspiring alliances across the stars. In the end, the uniter didn't fall. He rose, weaving humanity's fire into the cosmos's heart. And so, their legend endures, a tale of passion, victory, and unbreakable bonds. What a ride this HFY story has been. I personally love how it blends epic space battles with heartfelt romance, showing humans as the ultimate heroes in a universe of wonders. It reminds me that true strength lies in connection. What do you think? Would you join Jax on his next adventure? Thank you all for joining this cosmic journey on X-Aurel. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares fuel our creativity to craft even better sci-fi tales. Hit that button, your support means the galaxy to us.